Alright, so it's a big day for us here at Hoopty Doodle because we have finished all the major fabrication on this bike. We will be doing stuff later on that will be more accessories to the bike, like skid plates, luggage racks, that sort of thing. But for right now, we've got it back to the point where it has all the components for a bike, so it can be inspected, which is our primary goal at the moment. We want it to be inspected, returned to bike status, legal status, and then we can take it and do extra stuff with it. So for right now, I'm going to start taking it apart, painting all the pieces we fabricated, and putting it back together, and then we'll move on to wiring. So first thing here, I am disassembling all of our newly fabricated parts. Most of them are on the bike at this point, and I've got to take them off so that I can paint them. So first thing, speedometer comes off, and then we'll be working on the fender, the handlebars come off, etc. And here I'm using the wire wheel to clean up the headlight bracket that we made so that it will be nice and clean metal for painting. So now I've got a pile of parts here. I got to degrease them and then we'll start primering them. And here again on the subframe, I'm using another wire wheel to clean up the raw metal on this that we fabricated into the subframe, and this helps to remove any surface rust that might have developed since we did this, because it's been a couple months since we fabricated this subframe. And then to facilitate painting of the subframe while it's on the bike, I'm removing the passenger pegs off the subframe so that I can paint the subframe itself and not the pegs. And this is the lazy way of doing it. You are correct. Instead of removing the subframe in its entirety, which I could do, it does unbolt from the main frame. I am not going to do that. I'm trying to get this bike done, and the paint choice at this point is just a default what I have in the shop. At a later date, I have potential plans to repaint the entire bike. We'll see how that goes. Alright, now we've got some body filler. I'm going to try this out. I don't use body filler on a day-to-day basis, and so this stuff, just mixing it to make sure it hardens up, should be interesting. Alright, so I don't need much at all. I'm going to go extra on the hardener to make sure this stuff hardens up. It's like bubble gum, man. It looks like bubble gum. Applicator? I've got an applicator thing here. Let's try this out. I want it to be as thin of an application as possible. Alright, so there it is. We'll let that dry. Hopefully it turns out pretty nice. We'll sand it, of course, in a minute. Alright, so this stuff is supposed to take 3 to 5 minutes to harden, and then I should be able to sand it in 20 to 25 minutes. So I'll be back in like 30 minutes. Alright, so I've definitely still got some high and low spots in here. And so I'm going to come through, I'm going to put some more body filler in here. Although, I don't know how perfect it really needs to be here, you know? Alright, it should be dry at this point, and so it's back to sanding. Alright, I'm calling it good enough, and I'm going to go ahead and prime and paint this sucker. So on this headlight guard, I did want to make this a little bit more interesting because it is kind of the front of the bike, the headpiece of the bike, so to speak. And so I did braze the joints on some of these joints so that they stand out in contrast to the steel. You've got this golden bronze color. And now I have sandblasted everything down to bare metal, and I am going to blue the metal on this, which is what they do with guns. In order to darken the metal on the steel on guns. This will basically, it's like a metal stain, and this will stain the metal, and then I'll clear coat it after that.
What'd you do, gun blue it?
Yeah, I like this sort of, I don't know, it makes it look more handcrafted,
Looks nice.
So right now, hanging in the shop up here are a number of little parts that have been painted, and they now need to go on the bike. And then in the back of the shop, way back there, we've got some boxes of new parts to go on the bike. Let's get on to do some building. Actually, let's get on to do some assembly. Let's assemble. It'll be fun. This will be a fun one. So the first thing I'd like to do is work on the subframe. Get this thing back in order, get the tail light stuff back on here. Go from there. So here's my plastic piece here. Just gonna get this guy on here. Yeah, it's still dirty. It's still dirty, man. And I don't care. Yeah, how does that look? Looks pretty good. Here I'm installing the seat latch. And now we've got the license plate light, turn signals, and the tail light to install on this little tail tidy we made. And then the foot pegs, I just painted these black. I've had second thoughts about that. I may revisit this. I may try and blue these as well. Or I may at some point have them powder coated. And then I'm taking the fuel tank off. This is our new fuel tank that still needs all its components. So I need the gas filler cap needs to be swapped over from the old tank, as well as all the fuel pump, fuel filter, fuel sender unit thing that goes on the bottom inside the tank, and all the associated tubes as well. Then it's on to disassembly of the handlebars, which basically works from the outside in, starting with the removal of the little crash caps on the end, and then the grips, and then the levers. And the right side grip is attached to the throttle, which I can just swap over that whole thing onto the new handlebars. But the left side is, the grip is actually attached to the handlebar itself. And so to get that off is the old soap and water trick. So I've got some soap and water mixture in a spray bottle, and using a screwdriver I can funnel that soap and water mixture down between the grip and the handlebar, and then that's enough to break that seal and allow me to pull the grip off. Alright, big moment as we dig into some boxes. I'm gonna use something new. Which is, of course, the handlebars. So I got the stock OEM handlebar replacements for these guys. Backwards. Got this on the wrong way. And then I've got some used aftermarket levers here that are nice and fancy looking. And these actually came off a CBR300, which FYI swaps straight on to a CB500. Alright, so this is one of our new things. This guy right here. Look at that part number. This is the speedometer cover, which luckily Honda sells just the cover. So you can get just the little glass part, which is fantastic. And it comes with the little buttons on there as well, which is nice. I'm gonna swap this out. And that means there's a few screws on the back here. We got several little screws. One there, another there, and one up there. Look at that. Yeah, comes right off. And I'm immediately gonna swap on the new one. Alright, yeah, so if you're doing this at home, all that's required is a screw up on top here, and then there's 2 screws on either side. And that's it. And then this whole thing just comes right off. And now we've got a nice new one. Look at that. Buttons. Fantastic. Onto the bike. But before we get that far, let's put some turn signals on the front here. Yeah. Alright, I gotta take the fuel filter and strip all these extra pipes and things, tubing off of this thing and put it onto the new tank. It's a fuel pump, actually. Look at that. Nice. I'm super stoked that this is intact. I originally thought that this was damaged when I first got the bike. I thought this was damaged because the bike wouldn't start. And these are relatively expensive. It's like somewhere close to 200 bucks. So I'm glad that's money I don't have to spend. All right, over on the bench, go ahead and stick this guy this way. Yeah, so the little sender thing goes towards the back. All right, so the torque specs on these nuts here it's 9 foot-pounds or 12 Newton meters, which are equivalent. I'm gonna do it in a crisscross pattern too. All right, now I'm gonna get my little hoses that go in here. All right, and then transfer these guys on to the new tank.
I guess it does go under there.
So getting the fuel tank back on involved, there's a nice neat little quick disconnect on the actual fuel line, and that goes on and pops back in place. And then there are those 2 tubes that connected onto the bottom of the tank. Those are drain tubes or overflow tubes, and there's one that goes down either side of the bike. And so I have to get the tank on there and then connect both of those tubes back to the rest of the drain pipe that runs through the frame to the bottom of the bike. Ha! There's 2 that don't do anything. Two of these screws go to absolutely nothing. There's only 3 that hold on the tank. And those 3 are the one in the front there, and these 2 in the back. Those 2 there are just cosmetic. And now it's the side covers we fabricated. Those are now painted black, and they'll just go on with a couple of screws. And then it's onto the battery. We're putting the battery in it. It's getting real now. All right, and then the other thing we got is basically these two pieces here, which are the cowl, the mid cowl, which replaces that. And we've got a couple little screws and clips in order to flip all this stuff together. I think this piece swaps over and goes with these guys. Yeah. These go together. Alright, and then there's a screw here that swaps over. Alright, that's better. This guy goes on here too somewhere. Alright, there should be a screw right here. So this video has ended on a bit of a cliffhanger, but it's for good reason, because I've come to the realization that if I want to take this bike to Texas this winter, and I do, because I can ride it there, at this point in the build, it makes sense to actually do that. Just not finish putting it together, but to put it into the Subaru. Yeah, I'm gonna put it into the Subaru and take it down to Texas, because in order to do that, I'm gonna have to take parts off of it to put it in the car. So why put it together just to take it apart again? So that's the plan. At this point, it is more reasonable to take it down there, because A, we're late in the season, B, we have yet to do the bureaucratic paperwork, which could take a month or more, and so I'm not gonna, the winter will be over by then. I would like to go to Texas and visit my girlfriend, you know? And so then the paperwork is going to be, in terms of Texas paperwork, what does it take to retitle or get a salvage titled bike in Texas? I'll compare and contrast it to the regulations in New York, and I know the cost of doing it in New York would be about $205, and so the Texas one, they split the costs up a little bit differently. I don't know if it adds up to that much or not by the time you're done, but I'll do my best to try and compare those for you. So that's the plan, and so from here, we're gonna be swapping shops, and it's a huge contrast to the shop in you can't even call it a shop. It's a garage, a normal everyday garage in Texas, and so we're gonna be doing stuff down there for the next few months probably, and we're gonna be riding this bike. We're gonna ride this freaking bike all over Texas. Maybe not, because it's a big state, but we can ride it around. So we'll see you then. Sorry for the cliffhanger, but next time you see this bike, it'll be in Texas. Actually, it'll be getting into the car. We're gonna be slamming this thing into the car in the next video, and then driving it down to Texas. And then when you actually see the bike finished, it will be in Texas. So thanks for watching. Hope you continue to watch and follow this bike to Texas with me. I think it'll be cool when it's done. And we'll see you then. Thanks for watching. Keep on wrenching on your own projects. See you next time.